today I want to talk about something we ain't never talked about before. Now that's a lie, I can't do that because we're in church and we can't lie in church. I want to talk about how to change and overcome and get rid of yourself. Now that is something we have talked about before, like every time we come here. So really it's not going to be much different than anything we've been talking about. I just wanted to get y'all excited a little bit, but no, it is exciting. I want to go to the book of Ruth. Ruth, and we're going to start in 1. So Ruth, anybody who knows about the book of Ruth, it's called the book of Ruth, and yes, it's about Ruth, but there's one main character in this book. And I think maybe her name may be mentioned more than Ruth. And it's Naomi. So Naomi, as we will read in a minute, is the mother-in-law to Ruth. Naomi had a sister-in-law. What was her name? Anybody know? Orpha. Okay, so we got Ruth, Orpha, and Naomi. There's 3 characters we're going to start with. So let's read. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons, and the name of the man was Elimelech, however you want to say it. If I mess up a name, don't correct me because I don't care. Okay, because it don't matter anyway. Alright, so we're going to go with Elimelech. Elimelech, and the name of his 2 sons, Mahalan and Chilion. Mahalan and Chilion, that's what we're going to go with. Euphrates of Bethlehem, Judah, and they came into the country of Moab and continued there. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. Alright, so let's look at this. We got a family that moved from Bethlehem. They moved from Bethlehem, Judah. Why? Because it was a famine in the land. Alright, what is a famine? No food. Alright, so they were going to seek food. So they moved their whole family. Now this was a prominent family, by the way. These were not beggars. They won't like peasants. They won't nomads. They won't none of that. This was a prominent family that moved from land that they owned to go find food in a different land. Alright? So they're with their 2 sons, and they took them wives of the women of Moab. So the 2 sons found wives. The name of one was Orpha, and the name of the other was Ruth. And they dwelled there about 10 years. Alright, so this family dwelled in Moab for 10 years. And Mahalan and Chilion, and this is after her husband died, the 2 sons, Mahalan and Chilion, died also. Both of them. Both of them died, and the woman was left of her 2 sons, and her husband. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab how the Lord had visited his people and given them bread. Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. And Naomi said unto her 2 daughters-in-law, Go, return each of her mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you as ye had dealt with the dead and with me. Okay, so they decided to do what? To go back where Naomi was from. I want to look at this because it didn't say that she told them to go and to go back to where your mother's was before she left. She took them with them, and along the journey somewhere, she made up her mind that she was going to tell them, y'all go. And I can see it now. Because this woman, all she had was gone. So imagine her husband died. And then she's left with her 2 sons. The only thing she's got to carry on the inheritance, the only thing that she's got that she actually produced, that she birthed, everything that she was and was going to be, died. So Naomi had no future in her eyes. And because she had no future, she looked at these 2 girls who were following her and said, y'all need to get away from me. Y'all need to go back to where you came from. Go back to your mother's house. Go back, because there you might have a chance. You might have a chance of making something of yourself. You might have, because if you stay with me, there's nothing. Alright, so she was poor in mindset. She was old. Let's keep reading. Return to your mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, as ye have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant you that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and wept. And they said unto her, Surely we return to thee unto thy people. So this is both of them saying this now. We want to return to you. Return with you to your people. And Naomi said, Turn again, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there any more sons in my womb, that they may be your husband? She's saying, I don't have any more children inside me. Turn again, my daughters, go your way. For I am too old to have a husband. If I should say, I have hope. If I should say, have an husband also tonight, and should also bear sons, would you tarry for them till they were grown? Would you stay with them from having husbands? Nay, my daughters, for it grieveth me much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord has gone against me. So she's having a pity party right here. Big old pity party. I'm never gonna be anything, and this is the hand I've been dealt, and you just need to get away from me, because if you stay here with me, you'll never have anything. So she's trying to run these girls off. She's trying to run them off. And they lifted up their voice and wept again, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clave unto her. What is the word clave? She clung to her. Orpah kissed her and went on her way, but Ruth clung to her. Alright, what was Ruth clinging to? Ruth was clinging to the promise that she had been given before. The promise of an inheritance. Because no matter how you look at it, Ruth had been into that bloodline. She had been bred into the bloodline of Naomi. So she looked at Naomi as her future. She looked at everything that Naomi had inside of her. She followed her and she clung to her. But Orpah, by the way, Orpah means what? Stiff-necked. She turned away. It was easy for her to turn away. She walked away. She removed herself from the promise that was given to her. Alright, so I want to look at this from two angles. You got Ruth. Orpah's gone. Orpah's got her own angle too. Alright, let's do three angles. Orpah had it in her mind the whole time that she wasn't going to stay. The whole time they were walking, she said, you know what, I'm never going to do anything hanging out with this woman. Yeah, she was my mother, but without a son, she's nothing. Without my husband anymore, she has no meaning to me. See, we're clinging on to people, and we're carrying people along with us that don't see the value in you. We're carrying these people along, and we're saying, come with me.
Go ahead.
Come on, let's go. We'll find food. But the whole time, you're carrying these people with you. They don't even want to be with you in the first place. They don't care nothing about you. Actually, the whole reason why they were with you at all is to hopefully get something out of you. But see, in your darkest times, guess what? They're going to leave you. When it's hard and you're on the road trying to get somewhere, and you're down and you're saying, you know what, you need to leave me alone because I'm worthless. They turn and walk away. But Ruth, what did Ruth do? She knew the value that was in Naomi. So she clung to her. She clung to her, she stuck with her. So in the same sense that you got people that walk away in your life, you also got people that build you up and stick with you.
Yeah.
Now I want to show you something today because this is the same story that's all throughout the Bible. It's the same, it's all throughout the Bible is repetition, and everything is pointing to Jesus. Everything points to Him. Everything says, hey, this is an example of me, of Jesus. Everything is that example. So this is that example as well. And I just want to say one thing. When people walk away from you, let them keep walking.
Yes, sir.
See, we go try to chase them back because we find out we ain't got nobody. We go try to run them down and, oh, I'm sorry I said that. You know, this is a long journey. Come on, let's walk with me. When we get to my house over there, I got something I can give you. Alright, don't nobody else do that. We bring people back into our lives that walked away from us. Now a lot of people has walked away from what we're doing right here. And guess what I'm not going to do? Is go chase them down. I let them walk.
I hear you.
And it took me a while to figure that out because I wanted people and I knew I had something to give people, but see, those people didn't want anything I had the whole time. They didn't want the future me. See, once you understand the value of what you have inside of you, you understand the value of your future. And the value of your future, because if people would have took me for what I was back then, those people that walked away back then, they didn't have a clue what was inside of me for the future.
Yes.
See, Naomi had a future. She did have a future. She had a huge future. Let's keep reading. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So Ruth clave unto her. She clung to her. And she said, behold, your sister-in-law has gone back unto her people and unto her gods. Now hold on, unto her gods.
Yep.
Meaning there was a difference in mindset.
Yep.
She went back into her old mindset.
Yeah.
So we have two differences of opinion here. We have two different gods. Well, I want to tell you this story is about each and every one of us, because inside of us we have two different gods. We have the God of self. I have the God of Joshua. And I have Christ inside of me. So we have these two different gods. See, but Orpha, stiff-necked, turned her neck. She turned her head and she walked back, and she never looked back. She walked back to her old gods. And she said, return after thy sister-in-law. Naomi is trying to run her off to go back to the old mindset that she come off of, because she is in a bad mindset herself. See, that's what we do. The ones we love, we try to push them back to their old gods and back to their old mindset, because we're hurt and we're bitter. If we keep reading, we ain't going to read that far, but Naomi, she went back and she went to her people and she called herself Mara, which means bitter. She said, I'm bitter. Nobody else ever been bitter up in here. I'm bitter. I'm mad. I'm mad. I don't want to talk to nobody. I'm just bitter. Okay, it's just me. It's alright.
I've been bitter.
You been bitter?
Yes, sir.
Me and Matthew have been bitter. Nobody else. Me and you, buddy. We've been bitter. But see, that mindset runs people away from the Christ in you. It removes people from the Christ in you, because everybody in here has got Christ inside of them. And I went over it again, and I was around some so-called, quote-unquote, very religious mindsets this week, and I realized really quick that everybody was pushing people to the altar. Just go to the altar and give your heart to the Lord, and we have this many saved, and we have this many that did this on Sunday, and we're having, I really believe that he was saved. People that's died, I really believe that he was saved. And I'm like, well, what is your idea of salvation? Because to me, salvation is life.
Yes, amen.
Salvation is living an abundant life. So,
Yes.
and they're pushing people to the altar, but see, the altar they need to be pushing people to is the altar that's inside of them.
That's right.
There's an altar inside of each and every one of you, and when you bow your knee to that altar, to yourself, and you bow out of yourself, you're bowing down to Christ.
Yes.
Man, I'm getting way ahead of myself. It's just happening so quick. I'll tell you what, let's not even read this. Let's do this. She pushed these girls away. Ruth came back. Ruth clung to her. She clung to the promise that was inside of Naomi. Alright, so they go back into their town. Of course, Naomi says, call me bitter, because I'm mad. Alright, but what does Ruth do? Ruth goes to work. Right? What's she doing? Somebody tell me. She's out in the fields. She's out in the fields and she's gleaning. She's gleaning the barley, the wheat, but she's picking up out of fields that's not hers. But she's picking up the scraps. She's picking up just enough to get by. Because why? Why was she picking up just enough to get by? Because her mindset allowed her to only pick up just enough to get by. But see, then there was the man who owned the fields.
Yes.
What was his name?
Boaz.
Boaz. Boaz owned these fields. And by this point, I imagine it's a small town, you know what I mean? There couldn't have been. It's not like Fuquay where you got thousands of people now. It's like Fuquay 30 years ago where everybody knew everybody. But it's this small town, this small little town atmosphere, so everybody knew Naomi was back. Everybody knew she was back. They ain't seen her in how many years? 10 years. But everybody knows she's back, and everybody knows that she's got this Moabite woman with her. See, you got to think about Ruth's position. Ruth was an immigrant to this area. She was an immigrant. She didn't look like everybody else. She didn't talk like everybody else. She didn't act like everybody else. She had different cultures than everybody else in this area because she wasn't from around here. It's just like if we maybe go to Cary. If I moved out to Cary, all of a sudden I can make by, but it's a little different atmosphere. Now it's really different. It's like going up north. Now let me tell you, I am an immigrant when I go up north. I don't fit in. Everybody knows I ain't from around there. That was Ruth's position. Everybody knew she wasn't around there, so when they saw her, they started talking. Hey, that's Naomi's daughter-in-law. She's not the same as us. She's from over there. See, sometimes God will put you in a position. Actually, matter of fact, let me back up and rephrase this. Whenever you come to your land and the land that God wants you for, you're going to feel like an immigrant because it's so far from where you came from. It's so much different from where you came from. You don't fit in anymore. You stand out like a sore thumb. And it's going to feel odd to you at first. You're going to feel awkward in where you're at. But you're in the right spot. And so, Boaz seen Naomi. Ruth. Boaz seen Ruth. And he seen her out gleaning the fields. And what did he do? What did he tell the people that were looking for him? He said, leave some. Leave a little bit extra out in the field. Don't take it all. Leave a little bit extra out in the field so she can grab it. She didn't have a clue he was doing that, by the way. And let me just wrap this up in case the ones who haven't got it can get it real quick. Boaz is Jesus. Boaz is the Christ in you. Okay. We are Ruth. Or we're Orpha. We're one of the two. Alright? We're Ruth or we're Orpha. Or we're Naomi. So, alright, let's continue telling the story. I just wanted everybody to have their mind trained on what we're talking about while we're talking, so it makes sense. So he left some out in the field for her to get. See, she was picking up scraps. She was picking up the leftovers. But the whole time while she was picking up the leftovers, because where she was supposed to be, because she was with Naomi, doing what she was supposed to be doing, little by little, those seeds that she sowed, she began to get blessed. Yeah. So now she's leaving, she was just picking up scraps, and it was hard at first to make a meal. It was hard at first to find enough to make a meal. Now it's beginning to get easier and easier. Why? Because the master, because the man who owned the field was watching. Yeah. And because he was watching, his eye was trained on her. And he wanted to bless her. Alright, so then we skip ahead a little bit. And I think Naomi finally got the picture. I think Naomi finally came out of her bitterness and saw a future. Actually, I know she did. See, when you're bitter, you can't see no future because you're too busy looking at what you was bitter at behind you.
Yeah.
You're looking at what you're mad at. You don't get mad at things that come in the future. Maybe I'm wrong. Do you get mad? Oh, I'm mad because, well, some people do. They're mad because they got to get up and go to work in the morning. But anyway, I'm mad because, well, you can't really be mad at something that ain't happened yet.
Right.
See, bitterness and anger and all these things that we always talk about and we stand up here and talk about, that's what causes us to have no future. That's what causes us to have no hope. That's what causes us to become porch dwellers and sit on our butt instead of making action and creating things. Instead of being creators, because a creator is in the image of God because God was a creator. So therefore, if we are bitter and angry and looking in the past, we're not in His image. We don't look nothing like God. Unless you're producing something, you don't look like God. I hate to tell you. I know that's pretty strong, but let me say it again. Unless you're producing something in your life, you don't look like God. You're not in His image. Unless you are creating something that somebody else can benefit from later, you're not in His image. And see, that's where I was. I wasn't creating anything. Only thing I was creating was destruction. So whose image was I really in? I was in the image of Adam, who created hell. I was not in the image of the one who created me.
Yes.
See, we've got this thing twisted because we're born with the mind of God. And see, what I was always taught is I was born with the mind of Adam. And I was born with this sinner's mind. No. You're born with the mind of Christ.
Yeah.
Inside of you, you're born absolutely perfect, and then you were corrupted by Adam. So you have to come back to Christ. So in that scenario, it makes it a lot simpler, knowing that you don't have to find something out in this vast area around you called the earth or called your mind, that you don't have to go seek and find something that is already inside of you. You just got to figure out how to walk back to it.
Yeah.
So Naomi found herself. Actually, she got over herself. How about that? She got around herself. She got back to the Christ in her, back to the promise that she had from the beginning. She got back to that, and she said, her eyes were open, and she said, girl, Ruth, girl, let me tell you something. That Boaz, he's got eyes for you. Girl, let me tell you something. You don't even know he's watching you. See, all of a sudden her whole Naomi, now we focus, is called Ruth, but let's look at Naomi. Now, all of a sudden Naomi had a purpose. See, a lot of people don't have a purpose. Therefore, they have no future. But once again, as long as we're looking at what we've lost, how can you possibly see the purpose in your future? So what did she do? what does Naomi tell Ruth to do? She tells her, she says, look, she said, she said, Boaz is going to be working tonight. Y'all can go back and read this. I'm going to give you the old Harnett County version. Alright. She said, Boaz is going to, he's going to be out working tonight. He's going to be out on the threshing floor. Does anybody know what the threshing floor is? This is good stuff right here. So, the threshing floor was a big circle. It was like a concrete pad. And what they would do is they would take all the barley and everything and they would throw it on this concrete pad, and they would either step on it or run their horses over it and run around and around and trample down the barley to separate the wheat from the tares. To separate the stuff that was good for food from the stuff that wasn't good for nothing. Now I just think it's amazing that Naomi told Ruth to go and meet him, that he's gonna fall asleep on this threshing floor. And when he does, he's gonna be full, she said. Full of food and full of drink. He's going to be comfortable. He's going to be relaxed. And what you do, she told him, she said, go to the threshing floor and he's going to be there and he's going to fall asleep. Don't let him see you. But when he falls asleep, you go and you lay at his feet. You lay at his feet. And whenever you lay at his feet and he wakes up, we need to read that part. Ruth 4. Let's start in, actually it's not 4. Somebody tell me if you find it.
What you said, read 3:6.
3:6. And she said unto them, all that you said unto me I will do. And she went down unto the floor, and did according to what her mother-in-law bade her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, his heart was merry. Now most time when people eat and drink, their heart is merry. Alright? So Boaz is comfortable, and he went to lie down at the end of the heap of corn. And she came softly and uncovered his feet and laid her down. And it came to pass at midnight that the man was afraid and turned himself, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. And he said, who art thou? And she answered, I am Ruth, thine handmaid. Spread therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid, for thou art a near kinsman. And he said, blessed be thou of the Lord, my daughter, for thou hast showed more kindness in the latter end than at the beginning, inasmuch as thou followest not young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, fear not, I will do thee all that thou requirest, for all the city of my people doth know that thou art a virtuous woman. Let's stop right here. So she lay down at his feet, and he said, who are you? He knew who she was, by the way. Because then he called her a virtuous woman, and he said, well, everybody in the town knows that. But see, she laid at his feet as a servant. As a servant. See, there's many times in the Bible, like the woman with the alabaster box. She laid it at his feet. That's why you see people washing feet, and it's such an intimate time, because you are serving somebody else at their lowest part.
Yeah.
See, I done told you last week, you got to first be a servant.
Yeah.
before you can be an heir. So we look at Boaz, and all of a sudden you look at Ruth and she's at his feet on the threshing floor, at the place of truth, at the place where the good is separated from the bad, on the threshing floor, on the place where the bad and the good is mashed out and it's separated. It's removed. Good from bad. Evil from everything that's pure. Stuff that's going to fill you up versus stuff that's waste. And whenever you come to the threshing floor and you meet your master at the threshing floor and just want to be a servant at his feet. See, she met truth. She met truth. I can't explain enough how much the value of truth is.
Yeah.
No matter what scenario, no matter how you want to look at it, how you want to break it down, truth is the most powerful thing we got, because whenever you come to the threshing floor, to yourself, where all the good and the bad and the ugly and the dandelions and the weeds is grown up with the corn and all the stuff that's good, whenever you come there and you can start to weed through all that mess that's inside of you and be truthful with yourself and say, you know what, I can't do it without being a servant to the master. I can't do it on my own because I'm still picking up scraps. I'm just picking up just what I can just to get by. See, whenever you do that, if you read ahead in 4, all of a sudden, he bought Boaz. The word that was used was redeemed, which is a much better word. He redeemed, he bought back everything that Naomi had. He bought it. And all of a sudden, he got Ruth too. And because he got Ruth, he bought her as a wife. He redeemed her and made her his wife. So therefore, not only everything that Naomi had, she got, but she got everything that Boaz was entitled to too.
Yeah.
The wealthiest man in the land, she got it all. Why? Why did she get it all? Because she clung. She held on to the promise. When things was tough, when the going got tough, she held on. She didn't cower down and say, you know what, oh poor me, I'm going to go back to my mama's house. Well, at least there they got some food and well, I'm never going to be good enough, so I'm going to go back to where I came from. Let me tell you something. When you're on a journey and you don't get to your destination and you don't even make it there, for you to turn around and go back home is insanity. But we do it all the time. We do it all the time. And you know what? It's nothing more than a simple decision. Let me say this. This decision determines your destination. Your decisions determine your destination. So because Ruth made the decision to stick to Naomi, she inherited everything. She got everything. But you don't ever hear of Orpha again, do you? Why? Because every time you turn away from the promise, you have an expected end. Your life does not continue through others, because this is the real kicker right here. If you go read the first chapter in Matthew, it tells you the lineage. And Ruth Jesus came directly out of Ruth. Not Orpha. Come directly out of Ruth. See, we don't understand the power that is inside of us. We don't understand our value, that it's not just about me and how I feel right now. See, we're so selfish. We sit there and focus on ourselves so hard about why I can't do what I want to do that we're missing the whole point, that the future Matt's in that baby. That's where the future's at. The future's in my baby. But what are we? What are we to stop the future for our selfish feelings about how I feel bad? When everything is inside of us to feel good. When everything is inside of us to make a difference. When everything is inside of us to build something rather than to tear something up. I was a bull in a china shop. Everything I touched, I tore all to pieces. But now what am I? I'm a builder. In the natural, that's what I do. I build things. I construct things.
Yeah.
See, you got to remove and get over yourself. Get over yourself so that not only you, but somebody else can reap of what seed you've sown. Because it will grow. Because every seed must bear itself. You ain't going to go plant some corn seeds and get a big old apple tree, are you? See, the thing about it, the thing about this story is no different than anything else. She started at his feet, and then he raised her up. Started at his feet as a servant, and then he raised her up. It's no different than Jonah in the well. Jonah was a hard-headed, didn't want to go preach where he should have been preaching kind of dude. So all of a sudden, he about killed everybody around him, but they were smart enough to let Jonah go. They threw that mug off the boat. Said, see you later. We ain't going to die because of you. Which was good. But see, he went down in the belly of a well at the bottom of the sea for 3 days before he was raised up. See, when you get raised up, all of a sudden, you don't want to do the same things you used to be doing. You want to do something different. Because now I don't want to be in the bottom at the belly of the well no more. I served my time. See, but he redeemed Jonah. Why do you think? Why do you think there just happened to be a fish swimming big enough to swallow Jonah and not kill him? It just happened. That dude just happened to be right there and eat him before he drowned. It's purpose. You went through what you went through so that you can serve somebody else. You went through what you went through so Christ can raise you up. All He wants to do is raise you up, is to exalt you. Now we've been taught the other way. We've been taught we have to exalt Him, and we do. But see, we ain't really taught how much He wants to exalt you. If He created this whole world for you, then what does that tell you everything is about? It's for you. Everything is for you. Life happens for you, not to you.
Go ahead.
I know this is completely different. Anything anybody else will tell you. You know what? The only reason I'll tell you is because it changed my life completely. I'm the same person. It's just the difference is now I'm doing what I should be doing, and I'm actually producing something. I'm producing myself in the earth. Before I was taking away from people, I was stealing from people. Now I'm just trying to give of myself. And I just want what I'm giving to be good. That's why we have to press forward to that mark of the high calling, because everybody's got a high calling. And I'm not at my high calling, nowhere even close, but I got to keep pressing forward. But see, first we have to know that there is a high calling, and that you do have something to look forward to, and that you have a hope and a future.
Yes, yes.
There's people in my life, man, I thought I could take and I could give them a hope and a future. But you can't. I can't give nobody hope unless they're seeking hope. I used to take and all the time would try to help out old friends and stuff, and I thought I was giving them hope. But really, they was taking from me. And instead I should have just let them go. That maybe they would see. They would see the carnage that was going on, the mayhem that was going on outside of the promise. There's people in your life today that you got to let them go. If somebody can walk away from you, if they can walk away from you, indeed walk away in your hardest, toughest time, you would be a fool to bring them back when everything's good. A fool to bring them back when everything's good. I want, my hope is for everybody in here, to understand first their value. Because we ain't nothing. You would never do anything, you would never produce anything if you don't have any value, if you don't understand how valuable you are. It's to understand the value that you are, and then on top of that, the value of the Christ that's already inside of you, the built-in, He's built in, the built-in Christ. It's like a car. You don't go buy a car and it don't have a horn. No, it just comes with it. It's not an accessory. Let me say that again. I was taught that Christ was an add-on to my life. That I had to go get Him and find Him and add Him to me. Like an accessory. Like, oh, boom, I got it. Hey, check this new feature out. No, it ain't like that. It's built in. It's a horn. It's a motor. You ain't gonna buy a car without a motor. Well, John might, because he's a mechanic. We got to understand the value of us and understand the value of what's inside of us and what we have to offer. And once you do understand those two things, all of a sudden, you know what? I don't want to keep doing what I'm doing no more, because I can't keep hanging out with these clowns and expect to go anywhere. These clowns ain't never went anywhere, ain't never going anywhere, ain't never even mentioned or even thought about going somewhere. And why am I here with them? Because everything you got inside of you is the voices that you hear. The reason why you are where you're at is because you've been listening to some clowns talking. Some fools talking. and you took on everything they said, and you just smiling. Oh, it's, yeah, that's me. Yeah, I'm crazy. Yeah, I'm a drug addict, just like him. We're drug addicts together. That was me. I felt comfortable, as long as I was around drug addicts, we was all good. Yeah, this is what we do. We shoot dope. But all of a sudden, whenever I got around people who was actually doing something, I felt uncomfortable. And I didn't want to be around those people. So I'd remove myself and go back. Hey man, it's good right here. This is what we do. See, whenever you go into a foreign land, you feel uncomfortable, just like Ruth felt uncomfortable. If you feel uncomfortable, let me tell you, you're in a good spot. Keep feeling uncomfortable. I don't never want to be comfortable with nothing. The best thing you can do is to feel that feeling inside of you like, I got to do something. I got to do something different. I got to move. I've been feeling it a lot lately. Let me tell you. I'm stuck. I feel like I'm stuck in my little world. Now, y'all can sit here and speculate and say, well, no, I'm just being real with you. In my world, ain't got nothing to do with nobody in here. I'm uncomfortable. Therefore, I'm going to do something because I don't like being uncomfortable for long. Because it said right here, Orpha found rest at her mother's house. She was comfortable back going home to the other gods where she believed she was comfortable there. Naomi didn't find it. Naomi and Ruth didn't find it. They had to go find it. So get out and go find it. Do something. Look, ain't nothing going to happen. Just happen. Ain't nothing just going to happen. I don't care how many prayers you pray and what you do and how many times you jump and shout and whine and scream and cry. It ain't nothing going to happen until you get off your butt and do something about it. I'm sorry, that's a little heavy, ain't it? Now, I'm going to say it again. Get off your butt and do something about it. And your whole life will change. Then you'll start picking up bigger pieces. Then you start eating a little better. And before you know it, you'll be right on the way to becoming a servant. And once you become, and you realize that I am a servant. I don't care what I do. It don't matter where I ever get, I will always be a servant.
Yes.
Always. I will always be a servant. I ain't trying to be above anybody. And nobody can take that away from me. I don't care what nobody says about me. I ain't above nobody. Why? Because I've been at the bottom. And once you've been at the bottom, you're at the feet. And once you're at the feet and you realize that you're at the feet, y'all ain't getting this, man. When you realize that you're at the bottom and you realize that you're at the feet of your master, then he'll raise you up. But you got to first recognize and uncover the feet so you can see them. Then he'll raise you up. Some of the greatest people I ever met have got some wild, crazy stories to tell you about where they come from. From the bottom, from their dirt, had their face rubbed all up in the mud. But how'd they come out? That's the greatest story. It don't matter how they got in the mud. It's how they come out.
Yes.
And every one of them will tell you, and it all sounds eerily similar to what I'm saying right now, but if you listen, they realize that they got to do and be something greater than what they are right now. For not themselves. Because at that point, once you've been in the mud, you don't really care about yourself no more. You're over self. You're over worried about what somebody else thinks about you. I used to care what people thought about me. That's funny, ain't it? But now, I don't. It don't matter to me what you think about me, because let me tell you, what people used to think about me was a whole lot worse. Ain't nothing can go through your mind right now that was worse, because they were right. This life is good, man. We just got to figure this thing out. Just walk it out. It says walk out your own salvation. Every man. Mine ain't the same, but guess what? The process is the same. That's the good thing. If we can understand the process, we can have it. Have what? Life. And life more abundant. Yep. That's all I got.